Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Again, apologies for the clipping. It seems like initially on these recorded in my laptop's mic with web browsers, screen capture videos. I'm going to do another one of these tier. These are kind of getting addicting. I'm going to probably go through these. I'll run out. I'll start doing songs, then do movies or TV. I don't know. But I'm going to do Pain of Salvation. I haven't talked that in depth about Pain of Salvation. I mean, part of the thing is with doing an album's Tiermaker list is it has to be an artist or band that has at least a reasonable sized catalog. If they have like 2, 3, 4 albums, it's sort of stupid. I mean, you could, I guess. But Pain of Salvation at least has a reasonable. They have whatever 8 or 10 albums. They warrant it. So, and they're on here. Some of the bands I love aren't on here. I don't think Ours is on here. I don't think. There's a few other bands that aren't on here that are more too obscure. Brian Scary's on here. I don't think Self is on here. I should check. But so I'm doing Pain of Salvation. So it looks like they just put them in. No, they didn't put them in chronological order. Anyway, so all right. So the first album on here is the debut album, Entropia, and I'm gonna give that an A. Really good debut album. Some of their best songs, including People Passing By, Plains of Dawn, and some people love Forward, and Winning a War is another staple they played live. But I find even the songs that are more odd, obscure, kind of using some odd rhythms, have things I like about them that are unusual, stress or whatever. And anyway, yeah, that's an A. Entropia. In the Passing Light of Day, their album from 2017, in a way, sort of a comeback. In a way, the album that had Ragnar had a lot to do with the songwriting, not just Daniel Gildenlow. I'm gonna give it a B. It's good. A lot of the songs have held up. The biggest stigma I have about it is people praise and they love that it's like a 15 minutes, like I think the longest song they've ever actually recorded. Title track. His experience, Daniel Gildenlow's experience dealing with flesh-eating bacteria. He was in the hospital for many weeks. It was hell, I'm sure, for him. That song sort of, in some ways, a narrative for that experience. I don't find the song itself to be engaging, unfortunately. Either from a melancholy, sympathetic way or just a musical standpoint, especially a musical standpoint. The rest of the record, though, has a lot of highlights. On a Tuesday, Reason, some of the riffs, some of the choruses, some of the emotion, the vocals. It's heavier than some of the previous recent albums, and for a lot of reasons I really enjoyed this record. I still do enjoy it. Panther, their album from 2020, an album that I've struggled with, and honestly, there's not a lot of songs that I can even remember from a standpoint of something Aether, like Terminator, Emaciator. There's a bunch of weird song titles on it. I remember when I did it, all the track titles was looking at it were all in caps, but it's more electronic. There's experiments that are on here, but honestly, it hasn't been an album. I tried to revisit it like a year ago, and I thought, this is okay. I couldn't get fully into it. I still haven't. So sadly, I'm gonna have to put it in D. 1 Hour by the Concrete Lake. This goes in B. It's got a lot of good songs on it. It definitely, in some ways, even though it's a different concept, because Entropia was sort of a fictional world. 1 Hour by the Concrete Lake is fictional, but also based on a thesis that Daniel had done. I think that's when he was in college, about the environment and about this lake that was kind of damaging because it was damaged from the environment. It was going to basically ruin this society. Water being a valued commodity, but the condition of the water, anyway, I'm going to get into the whole political, social, and lyrical element to it. The music itself on it sounds a lot like a continuation of Entropia, but not quite as good. But it has a lot of good songs. Home, Inside Out. Inside Out sounds like them almost doing power metal, but it works. There's a few other tracks. I'm just blanking. I don't have the track list, of course, in front of me. Water, of course, is one of them. They talks about flushing, and we flush, but the music on it is pretty good. I think this is the one that has New Year's Eve, Pilgrim. I mean, there aren't really too many songs I don't like on it, with a few really good highlights, but I've always felt like it didn't quite get to the level that Entropia did. So, Perfect Element is a perfect record. The album that came out, I listened to it not that long after it had come out, and the first album that they was out new at the time when I got into them, and I saw them, the greatest concert of my life, etc. The title track in The Flash, King of Lost, the string parts in that the harmonies part, her voices is so unbelievably catchy. Reconciliation, super catchy, could have been like a pop song. Used, it's so good, it's perfect. It's one of the 5 or 10. I put it on that list. I think it was number 1 or number 2 on my progressive metal albums list. One of the 5 best albums of the last 25 years, easily, or 10 best. Remedy Lane, the album that followed in 2002, also perfect, S tier. Has some of their best songs. Beyond the Pale, especially, and a Trace of Blood. Those are the 2 biggest highlights. But Fandango, Chain Sling, you go down the track list of Two Beginnings, Ending Theme. What's the one that's besides Fandango? There's another one that uses a lot. Rope Ends. It's very awkward. They're very Zappa-esque, using a lot of odd times, a lot of odd rhythms in that track. But Daniel's performance and the production is stellar on this record. And it's about different relationships over different periods of time. The lyrics from A Trace of Blood almost, I never knew your name, but I loved you. That's the same about a miscarriage. But the highs are so high on this record. It's great. B is it's a tough one, but it's still the ambition I appreciate. I'm gonna have to go A. As much as there's things about it from a standpoint of listening to it frequently, I got to be honest about that, in that I don't listen to it frequently. It's a rock opera and very much a concept album, but at the same time, the songs can be listened to on their own. The best songs, It or MPS probably being the best. Mr. Money, De Pequena, they're all in Latin titles, so I remember all the titles. But the final track, the ambition worked for the most part. I mean, it's so much different sounding, especially up to that point for them. It's not really that. At the point, it gets a little heavy, but it kind of works in some ways like a less is more. It's a very experienced album. As you listen to it, you enjoy the sort of what they're trying to do. They succeed in a lot of ways, even though, again, they were they're diving off the deep end and see if it's going to actually work. And it worked more than it didn't work, but at the same time, it's not an addictive album. Like it wouldn't be an album you'd recommend to anyone if you never heard them, unless they're into musical theater or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, plus it's from that era of the band where the first 3 records I love so much. It was the 4th or 5th album, first 4 records rather. It was still kind of canon. It's also Christopher Gilmore's last album that Daniel's brother was on. Scarsick is a B. A lot of people don't like it that much. I've talked about it when I got the vinyl recently. It is the sequel, I guess, in a lot of ways, to The Perfect Element Part 2, or in some ways. There's a lot of good songs on it. Is there a new metal element to it? Is there new metal / it's not hip-hop exact. I don't hear that much hip-hop or rapping. A little bit. He's using a lot of pop culture references that hip-hop does, but I mean, Enter Rain, Flame to the Moth, the title track. There's really more songs I like than I don't like. Kingdom of Loss, Mother Mary, Miss Mary, is it Mother Mary? Yeah. It has a lot of subtle melodies that you hear. Even Disco Queen. Disco Queen is actually brilliant. I know it was mocked when it came out. It's they're doing a dance song. They're doing a disco song. They're going to sound like the Bee Gees. And it is, they sort of it has a very kind of groove-ish, almost danceable rhythm to it that leads to this kind of heavy thrashy part, which the two seem incongruous, but the way they did it, it worked to me. And bands like, what is it, Diablo Swing Orchestra, and there's some other bands that have done some similar elements, like even Major Parkinson and bands that added like synth pop with heavy riffs. You wouldn't think the two would work, but when they're done well, they can work. And this is one of that song, Disco Queen, was one of the best example of that. America, people hated the lyrics for it. It was during the Bush administration, the W. Bush administration, when they refused to actually give up whatever. He created a quote-unquote embargo to not come to the U.S. because they required you to give all this information through customs and all this stuff. He hated W. Bush. Now, W. Bush looks like a saint now compared to Trump. I wonder what I think Daniel Gillen probably would agree with that, but because they've come to the U.S. since, of course. So, anyway, that's Scarsick at B. So now we have the two road salts, and I kind of think if you combine the two of them together, that one album actually works almost better together, even though it's a double album. It's really long. But I gotta take them on their own, I guess. Unlike Marillion, right at the same time Marillion released, Happy Is the Roads with Essence and together. And I'm gonna say that Road Salt 1 is a C tier. I mean, it's a lot of sort of classic rock influence, psych rock, some acoustic moments. It has some good songs on it, but overall, it doesn't go as far as I would like it to when listening beginning to end. I remember, although, come to think about it, I'm thinking about the EP they released, which I really liked, that had Mortal Grind, but I can't remember if that was on Road Salt 1 or Road Salt 2. But I'm going to give the second one a B tier. So is that kind of hypocritical? Because I kind of look at these two records together. Actually, the truth is I probably should just keep them together, and then if you put them together, I think the experimentation, the change in their sound, while they lost both Daniel Langall and Christopher Gilliland before that, is the membership changes. I also believe the keyboard player and the Johan Hallgren may have also not been available. It was just Daniel and Leo Margaret, the new drummer. I can't remember. That may have been, I'm thinking, for the Passing Light of Day. All I know is the membership was dramatically different in this period of time. But for what it was, I think in some ways it made sense that they changed their sound a little bit. It was an experiment. It wasn't their strength, and as it turns out now, listening to the records that have come since, maybe not. Although Panther, again, is an album that I've never been able to really latch onto. At least with the Road Salts, there's still several tracks I like. Sisters, was it Gridlock? Something to do with Gridlock. I mean, there are 30 songs on the two records, but I don't even have them on vinyl. So I mean, that's part of it. I need to pick them up. But so the Road Home, is it the Road Home? It has like one extra track, but then it's just like a compilation. What we don't have on here is 12.5. But again, I don't like to put live albums in here. But I don't know where I'd put this because it's a compilation. I guess I'd put it in B, but I don't know why they put it. It's got one extra track, and then it's like rearranged versions. It's kind of like what Marillion did with Less Is More, so it's another Marillion comparison. But so that's kind of where I put the Pain of Salvation, tier list. I mean, I guess you could say in some ways I'd put 1 Hour and maybe even In Passing Light of Day as an A, but I know I have a standard for an S and A. It's got to be a record that I have listened to a lot and really got attached to. I look at S as a 5-star, A is like 4 to 4.5, at least 4, maybe 4.5, and B is like around 4, close to 4, 3.5 to 4. And all these records are, the Road Home, whatever, are in that range, almost in this order actually. So, because 1 Hour by the Contemplates, an album I listen to a lot. I could easily put it up. I could put actually B. If I'm ranking them above B, but anyway, that's my Pain of Salvation tier list minus 12.5. Although 12.5, of course, are rearranged versions of other songs. What do you have their catalog? Are you excited for whatever it's going to maybe called the Deep End? I know there's a lot of music from the Panther period that didn't make it onto Panther that might have been different sounding. I'm looking forward to if it's called the Deep End or whenever it comes out. It might be probably more likely in 2024 at this point. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you next time.